portion remains the same. DJ LeMahieu will be hitting 6th, Nick Hundley 7th, and Rafael Ynoa will get the start at 3rd, hitting 8th. This is kind of one of those things we were talking about earlier with the bench, getting your bats going. This gives Ynoa an opportunity to kind of get going. We don't know what happened with Nolan Arenado. We'll have more information during the game as to why he was scratched. But if you're Ynoa, you got to take advantage.
Well, as a utility player, you're always ready to go, no matter what, because I've been put in that situation. I put in the lineup 10, 15 minutes before first pitch. You go, okay, I'm going to go out there and give him my best shot. Yeah, you hate to see Nolan out of the game for sure. But for Rafi, he says, well, you know what? If you want me to play, I'll do the best I can, and that's what utility guys like.
Yeah, that's why he's here. He's here to fill a role if he needs to. If Walt needs him, then that's what he's going to do. So, it's great to see that he's getting a start. It's unfortunate that Nolan's not there, but you know what? We're going to see the best effort out of him tonight.
That's right. Time now for our keys to the game, brought to you by Flat Irons Subaru. Jason, what do you got?
I got Jorge De La Rosa throwing strikes down in the zone, getting that ground ball rate back up, and letting his defense work for him.
I'll go with what I talked about in the first segment of this pregame show. Welcome back home, because it's so nice to be able to play in front of your fans. Last home stand, everything was good. We had a lot of fans out here. They were cheering for you. Then you go to San Francisco and L.A., and there's 40, 50,000 a night booing you, saying you're not very nice things to you. Luckily, I caught myself.
Not very nice things to you.
Yeah. So I caught myself. Now they'll be saying good things and cheering for you.
Well, and hopefully the best thing Jorge De La Rosa's teammates can do is welcome him back with open arms by scoring a lot of runs. That is exactly what they need to do. Give him some run support. Let Jorge De La Rosa get out there for his 2015 debut and let the Rockies get a victory tonight. We have baseball coming up for you right here on Root Sports. When we return, we'll turn it over as we count you down to first pitch. The Padres, they're in town for 4, and tonight marks the first game between the Padres and the Rockies for the 2015 season.
Strikeout for De La Rosa. chilly, cloudy Monday night, April the 20th. Jorge De La Rosa will make his 2015 debut for the Colorado Rockies. One of the most accomplished pitchers in Rockies history. Colorado tonight will tee it up against the San Diego Padres, the new look San Diego Padres, the first of 19 this year between the Rockies and Padres. And we welcome you upstairs with my partner George Frazier, fresh off some R&R. I'm Drew Goodman. Good to see Jorge back out there. Last couple of outings were down in Albuquerque. He's ready to go. He's been terrific.
Well, the Warrior's back, and that's what he is here at Coors Field. More wins than anybody in the history of the franchise here at Coors Field. Last year, he was 10-2 in this ballpark out of those 14 wins. If you go back and look now at the Root Sports stat pack, what he had to offer, this is what he's got to offer. 32 starts in this last year's season, 14-11, earned run average at 410, 45 career wins at Coors. There you go. I mean, that is huge numbers. And then 69 career wins, just 3 shy of Aaron Cook's 72 is the career most in Rockies history.
There's so many numbers that jump off the page at you when you talk about De La Rosa, particularly what he's done at Coors Field. The last 2 years, George mentioned 10-2 last year. He's 20-3 at Coors Field the last 2 years. The place nobody can pitch, right?
Yeah,
31 games over 500 here.
Nobody can pitch here but Jorge De La Rosa, and he does a great job with what he does. And a part of that is because he's not afraid of the ballpark. He's not afraid of the competition. He challenges with the fastball. I go all the way back when they acquired him from Kansas City. The first start drew 10 runs. Everybody's like, oh, get him out of here. Who is this guy? Well, proof's in the pudding. He's a very good pitcher, and he's done a wonderful job at Coors Field.
And he's much needed right now, not only because of his talent here at Coors Field. Rockies have played very good baseball. They lost 3 straight in Los Angeles. It's important to note that in that series, they saw Kershaw, they saw Greinke, they saw a revitalized Brandon McCarthy. I don't know where he picked up another 5 miles an hour, but he has. The point is, this young rotation needs a De La Rosa at the top of it.
Well, they need one, and the bullpen needs one. The team needs one. A guy that's going to go out and give you those 7 strong innings, and you know you've got a chance to win that baseball game every time he takes the mound. Every team that has success in baseball has 1 or 2 horses. De La Rosa is the Rockies' horse.
Well, the Rockies, and you heard Jenny during the we get to the postgame after
in a little
the game.
while.
Right.
We're in a little while.
During the pregame show, she noted before she tossed it off to us that there was a lineup change. Rafael Ynoa is going to start at third base. Nolan Arenado hurt his left wrist making a swing during batting practice, and because of that, a little soreness in that left wrist, he is being held out tonight. He was originally in the lineup. So you hear him say ow, but he didn't like all of a sudden remove himself from the cage. He looked to keep going. So the Rockies are going to err on the side of caution, and Arenado will not play tonight.
Well, he obviously saw something, felt something that was not right, and immediately, I'm sure, walked out of that cage, which we didn't have on video there. And Keith Duggar's on the field every single day for batting practice, had a quick visit.
So De La Rosa to a familiar spot, and he's going to face a somewhat unfamiliar lineup, at least altogether in a Padres uniform. Will Byers, a couple of years ago, the Rookie of the Year with the Tampa Bay Rays, came up with the Royals. He's now been a part of a couple of big trades. Derek Norris with Oakland last year. Matt Kemp, as you know, has been a Dodger. Justin Upton, Arizona and Atlanta. Will Middlebrooks, Boston. Jed Jerko was a Padre last year. Yonder Alonso as well. Clint Barmas, Rockies, Pirates, and now he is with the Padres. Odrisamer Despaigne will get the start on the mound. More on Despaigne when he takes the hill. So it's a new look Padres. So far so good, George. They're 8-5, but they're scoring about twice the number of runs in the early going that they did a year ago.
Well, third most runs in the National League right now. They've scored 59. There's only a couple of teams 60 ahead of them. So they've swung the bat very, very well. And you know, we were just talking to Mark Grant, their analyst, a very good one with the San Diego Padres, and Bud Black's team. 1 swing or 2 swings, 5 runs, 1 swing, 3 runs. And he said it's amazing how quick they can put it on the board, where in the past it was 5 or 6 hits to get 1 run.
It did seem that way. They were the lowest scoring team in baseball last year. They've done an about face with all of the moves from their young general manager, A.J. Preller. Here are the gloves behind De La Rosa. Dickerson, Blackman, and Cargo. Enoa now at third base. Tulo and LeMahieu up the middle. Justin Morneau and Nick Hundley, the former Padre, doing the catching. So we're glad, as always, that you're with us. The Rockies and Padres will play 4 before the Giants come to town. This is really the first homestand of the year. The Rockies had a drive-by against the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, and they didn't like what happened. 2 out of 3 they lost to the Chicago Cubs here on some faulty pitching, late home runs hit in the ballgame.
So De La Rosa making his initial start of 2015. And I would think that the pitch count will be somewhere in the 90 neighborhood, George. That ball cuts inside, ball 1. And the reason I say that is he was building up arm strength again because of that groin strain he suffered during spring training. His last outing at Albuquerque, 75 pitches.
Yeah, and he gone 58 to pitch before that. So, I mean, 58, 75, you'd think that next climb's 85, 95, depending on what happens. And Will Myers leads the ball game off with a base hit to center field.
So Myers with good speed. He's an extraordinary athlete. He's at first as Derek Norris comes up.
Yeah, right out of the hand on the Subaru Supermo, right out of the hand of De La Rosa, trying to come with a 1-0 fastball to the inner half of the plate. Myers is a very accomplished hitter and a very good hitter that has power, speed. He can hit the line drive up the middle as he does here on Jorge.
So Norris comes aboard from Oakland to take over the catching chores. He also has a very big bat. This is a guy that can swing it. '26-year-old backstop, and that's high, ball 1. Padres a year ago went 77 and 85, and then they made a flurry of moves for Bud Black. They moved 30 players in a 48-hour period. That's a major league record. Nobody had ever seen something like that during the winter months. Got to redefine hot stove was what the Padres pulled off this winter. And this is fought off and dumped into right field. It'll be first and third. In fact, it may be second and third. Norris is going to end up at second. Cargo was over toward right center field. He had a long run.
Just fought off a good pitch from Jorge is what it is. His strength is the only reason this ball carried into the outfield. A lot of times you see this bat shattered in a guy's hands. Norris does a good job with his pitch. I mean, a lot of inside out swing there, but it was also lofted out into that corner. You got reverse spin, so it's going to run away from Cargo. That bought a little more time for Norris to get to second.
And here's Matt Kemp, and Kemp has done great damage against the Rockies in his career, and he has always swung the bat well against Jorge De La Rosa in particular. 385 lifetime average with 3 home runs against De La Rosa. And that ball's lined to the gap in right center field, and it is going to one hop off the wall. 2 runs will score, and an inauspicious return for De La Rosa. Single, double, 2-0 San Diego already.
11 RBIs now for Matt Kemp. Yeah, to think that in 13 starts since 2010, he's 8-1 against San Diego. And tonight, San Diego has swung the bat, and they have swung it very well. You see that they have just garnered a lot of power off that backside, a very good load and extension. Drives it into right center field, out of the reach of Charlie or Carlos, and then it's just basically off to the races. The 2 runs are going to score easy. You just don't want Kemp getting to third.
Justin Upton, obviously very familiar with Coors Field from all his years in Arizona, and he takes a strike. Dela's been up so far in the zone, and he has paid for it. Upton, 368 lifetime against De La Rosa. He's also got a 15-game hitting streak against the Rockies. 418 average during that period of time. And that's a base hit to the left side. Kemp will have to stop at third. 4 straight hits against Jorge De La Rosa.
Just step back off the backside of the mound, get yourself a little breath of fresh air here, and say, you know what, I've got no outs, I got first and third. What's the shortest way to this inning? A double play, give up the run, get 2, get a third out, and get in the dugout.
And Upton will run occasionally. Middlebrooks with Boston last year battled some injuries. He was up and down between Boston and Pawtucket. This is a guy that hit a bunch of home runs his previous 2 years, 32 to be exact. Last year, 191 average, 2 home runs, 19 RBIs. Already got 1 more home run this year.
As soon as Headley was gone, they needed to find an answer at third base, and this was their guy. One of those 30 moves you talked about.
Everybody in baseball was saying the same thing. Are these the Padres making all these moves? 0-2 on Middlebrooks. And he struck him out. With De La Rosa with a punch out, and now if you can get a ground ball, you can really limit the damage.
And you're doing it against the guy that has struggled so far this year. Jerko's hitting 162.
Swinging strike on Jed Jerko. Hit just 206 since his first full season in 2013. That ball's lined to right. Cargo not going to be able to get it. That'll score at least 1. Upton is going to get a stop sign. 3rd double of the inning. And it's 3-0 San Diego. Now you're going to be forced to probably to pull the infield in with 1 out, runners at second and third. We'll see how the Rockies play it.
Yeah, you're starting to get in that danger area now. Base hit, you got a bad wipeout going at 5-0. Fastball away, mislocation, wanted the ball down and in, and he ends up going down and away, and it allowed Jerko to extend the arms, utilize the strength to get the ball off of the wall. Now you get second and third. And just 1 out. Left on left a matchup, but that hadn't really mattered. He's had success. Everyday guy in the lineup.
Infield comes in halfway, and that's sliced foul.
1 hit and 8 at bats so far against Jorge De La Rosa. You just got to be careful with this power at the plate. He's off to a good start. 350, a home run, and 4 RBIs, sharing time with Solarte.
Alonso's hitting .571 against left-handed pitching so far. Again, it's early, understood, but to George's point, he's seen the ball well left on left. Here's the 0-1. And backs down the left field line, and that's foul.
Wow. I mean, have a little luck go your way, right?
Dickerson was still, he wasn't sure, he was still chasing it. It was that close. Third base umpire is Greg Gibson.
Yeah, Greg Gibson in the middle of that controversy yesterday in Kansas City. Sliced off of the bat. Good thing left-hander's up because that ball's going to curl away from him, and it is foul, but just barely. 175 career average for Alonso in this ballpark in 24 ball games.
2-strike count. 3 runs in, 5 hits. Fastball at 95, so you know the arm feels good.
A little angry.
Yeah.
Not real happy right now.
Well, the hacked off fastball.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you know, you're trying to place things and you go, you know what, buddy, take a hack at this.
1-2, ground ball up the middle. That'll score at least one. Jerko's coming home and no throw. 5-0 San Diego. Wow. Not how De La Rosa wanted to return, not how the Rockies wanted to come back home. It's 5-0. There's one out.
Now this game got crazy in a hurry here. Let's look right out of the hand. It's a split finger. It's going to appear to be a slider, folks, by the break. But it's the split finger out of the hand of De La Rosa. Infield about halfway, and that ball out of the reach of DJ LeMahieu. Both runs come around. Jerko scores after the double.
Now that'll bring up Clint Barmes. Barmy getting his 4th start of the year. Signed as a free agent by the Padres, really to be their middle infield utility man. Alexi Amarista does most of the starting at shortstop. Jerko at second, but Barmes is so valuable because of his glove. And you're talking about the only section of their team that doesn't have 2 stars or would-be stars, if you will, right now in San Diego, and Amarista at short and Jerko at second.
Well, and the other star shortstop in their system that they have, and he's traded away. He's just playing for San Diego till June. Trey Turner. He goes in the trade over. He's shortstop playing in San Antonio right now, hitting .428, by the way.
That'll work in any league.
Yep, with a home run. Had a home run and a couple of RBIs last night. It's part of that trade that's not part of the trade. If that makes sense. He can't be traded till after the draft when he signed.
This ball's pulled down the left field line, and it's going to fall harmlessly into the seats. Barmes with the Rockies between 03 and 2010. Maybe the greatest moment he had was that opening day home run in 05 against the Padres. Trevor Hoffman, the walk-off home run. 665 games with the Rockies, 13th in club history. And one of the most popular Rockies that's ever worn the uniform. Alonso at first, 5-0 San Diego on 6 hits. Barmes strikes out, and there are 2 outs. That'll bring up the pitcher as all 9 have come up here in the opening frame against De La Rosa. Odrisamer Despaigne. And it's happened quick, George. It's not like, well, he's throwing 36 pitches in the first inning. It's a 20-pitch inning right now.
Yeah, that's the crazy part about it. They jumped on it early, and the extra base hits came into play huge. 3 doubles in this game.
And this will get the Rockies finally to the dugout. They have work to do. The good news is that they have 27 outs to work with. 5-0 San Diego. So now the Rockies will try to get after Despaigne, and Charlie Blackmon will lead things off. Charlie's average at 289. The rest of Walt's lineup brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Corey Dickerson, kind of a change of things, and not just because Arenado was a late scratch. Corey was placed in the 2-hole, Tulo in the 3 spot, Cargo dropped to the 4 spot. Morneau originally was hitting 6th with Arenado 5th. Now he'll slide up. DJ obviously slides up. Nick Hundley in the 7th spot, and Rafael Noah, who was told literally about 5 or 10 minutes before game time that he would be in there for Arenado, who has a sore left wrist. He hurt it swinging the bat during batting practice. Despaigne making his 2nd start. He had to come in for Ian Kennedy. When Kennedy got hurt in his initial start, the guy's been lights out.
He's lights out. 11 2/3, just 2 hits given up on the season for him. His fastball stuff won't wow you as much velocity wise as other guys that are on their staff, but he can touch a 93. He'll pitch backwards, change up, curveball, slider, then the fastball, the sneaky fastball. Really hides and protects the ball very well. Struck out 4, a couple of walks on the season. 8 seasons on the Cuban national team. 98 starts. He was 58 and 42. Well, those guys kind of flew under the radar as far as the Cuban defectors that had come over and played. Missed a couple of games in Mexico while he was gaining residency so he could become a free agent. Last year in the minor leagues with the Padres, then in the big league.
He pitched a very good ball game at Petco against the Rockies last year. He's never pitched at Coors Field. 1-2. Strike 3. They say that Blackmon went. Padres defensively will have an outfield of Justin Upton, Will Myers, and Matt Kemp. In the infield, Will Middlebrooks, Clint Varmus, Jerko at 2nd, Yonder Alonso at 1st, and Derek Norris doing the catching.
You made a great point when we went to break a minute ago, Drew. You said there's 27 outs to play, and that's the way you have to look at it from the Rockies' perspective, and also if you're De La Rosa. All right, I had my hiccup. I went out. I gave up 5 runs on 6 hits. Now what I got to do is have about 4 or 5 shutdown innings. And when I talked with Bud Black prior to the game today, and he said, you know, this is an American League park. That's how you got to think about it. You might give up 5 and win the game. And he said that's the way you have to think every time you go out here at Coors Field. And that's the way he feels about the ballpark.
And De La Rosa's been good about that.
Oh, he's liable to throw 6 shutout.
Right, and he understands that, you know, it may not always be the prettiest line. You may have an ugly number in an inning, but that doesn't mean you're out of the ball game. Despaigne is a contact pitcher, despite that strikeout a moment ago. It's just his 5th strikeout. Corey trying to shake loose again. He's 1 for his last 15. And strike 3, according to Marvin Hudson. Dickerson couldn't believe it. That pitch was low.
Let's take a look at this. You saw it on the 4th strike zone. It was not anywhere near the strike zone. Now in the Subaru Supermo. Running sinker. And did it catch the plate? Yes. But the height of the pitch is what Corey's asking about. I mean, this ball's coming across, you know, almost at the shins. And Corey's like, that's not a strike. Marvin's like, I called it one. Pretty crazy type situation. And it's very difficult. Good hitters know the strike zone. And they particularly know up and down.
One strike to count on Tulowitzki. Brings a .326 average in. Despaigne misses away. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Yeah, they said there might be a little rain early at this ball game, and there is right now as the rain's starting to come down.
On the ground to Barmes. And Despaigne works a 1-2-3 first. 5-0 San Diego. Town Toyota stores, let's go places. And by Southwest Airlines, book your low fare now at southwest.com. Kind of a gloomy Monday night, not just the weather, the scoreboard right now. Tough start for Jorge De La Rosa. He gave up 5 runs on 6 hits as the rain has begun to fall at Coors Field.
See that hat? That was the giveaway tonight, these hats.
And appropriate that it was the giveaway tonight by the Rockies because you need it.
Great hat.
Beautiful looking hat. In fact, a buddy of mine texted me that he texted me a picture. He said, I'm embarrassing my 12-year-old son. Or my 14-year-old son.
That's a great hat.
Yeah, I agree. He had it on, proudly wearing it. 1-0 on Myers. He started the onslaught with a line single to center. And this is on the ground at Tulo, and it goes right through Tulo's legs. That's his first error of the year. We need to push reset on this game. What is going on?
Well, first of all, it's been raining here, and it has. I'm not making any excuses. This guy's best shortstop in baseball. A couple of skips, and this one got right underneath the glove. Tulo thought it was going to stay down, had a little late hop on it right here. Staying down. Right there at the end. Came up on the baseball and hit off of the glove and went into center field.
Derek Norris at the plate. He doubled, kind of punched one down the right field line. 3 doubles in that first inning for the Padres. San Diego was in Chicago over the weekend. They took 2 of 3 from the Cubs, including 5-2 yesterday. They had 10 hits at Wrigley yesterday, and that's a wild pitch. Boy, this is an ugly beginning. There's no other way to describe it.
Well, and they made a roster move right before the ball game when De La Rosa came off and was activated. Another look at that. That ball skipped out in front of home plate. All that Hundley tried to do is just block it and kill it out in front. That didn't quite happen. Is that they sent Olberg down. Now, he pitched in L.A. Know all about the 3 home runs. He's going to be a part of this organization. He's going to pitch at the big league level. But they kind of, down in the bullpen, you start thinking, all right, what would happen hypothetically if there's a little hiccup in a game like this? What do you do? Where do you go to? Well, Friedrich can throw a couple of innings. That's a guy you can look to. Brown can give you a couple. So you can piece your way through this game. You don't want to. But that was the move that was made prior to the ball game.
Bergman is your designated long guy, but he had to eat up some
2 1/3 yesterday in LA.
Some innings yesterday, exactly.
Yeah, he threw 41 pitches yesterday in the ball game.
3-1. De La Rosa's pitching on an extra day of rest. His turn would have come up yesterday in LA, and the Rockies said, you know what, we'll give him one more day and have him start out at home where he's been lights out. And he's getting hit really hard right now. The ball, you can tell, is skipping because it's been raining a little bit the last 10 minutes or so.
Well, what happens is, and you played with this in the yard at times, it played catch on some wet grass. When it does hit and come at you, it starts to knuckle a little bit and pick up a lot of velocity on that second or third. And when that happens, it's like skipping a rock across the lake, man. It's tough to handle.
Matt Kemp, a booming double to deep right center to drive in 2. Kemp has 11 RBIs in his new uniform. He's always been a guy that gets off to good starts.
When healthy, he kind of stays hot. You know, he's just that kind of player. He's a really good player.
Last year in the second half, he was one of the top performers in baseball, but in his career, he's hit .313 in the month of April. He's way above that right now. Nobody out. Myers at third. Norris at first. I said .313, excuse me, .319 is average when you include a handful of games in March when the season has started early. Last year was one of those years where the season got going in March, late March. This ball's toward the hole. That's going to get through. Another run, 6-0. Nobody out. 8 hits for the Padres already.
Let's try to see if he take that cutter in on the Subaru Supermo as it came out of the hand. Yep, sure enough, tried to run that cutter under the hands. Stayed out. Anytime you see the catcher start to reach into areas of where the ball's going from where he's sitting, you can see there's some misses in here. And right now the Padres are making him pay for it.
Upton a base hit to left his first time.
The one pitch that he really utilizes a lot, that split finger, and that's what that pitch was right there, is when he can throw it for strikes and he gets out front, he can change speeds on it. In other words, from about 77 miles an hour to 85 miles an hour. But it has the same break on it.
Justin's been reunited with his brother. They played together in Atlanta for a couple of years, and then Justin in the winter was traded to San Diego. Well, literally a day before the season began, the Padres pulled off another big deal. They got Craig Kimbrell. He was the focal point of the trade with Atlanta, and Melvin Upton. DJ wants to be known as Melvin now. 2-1. Came in the deal. He has a foot injury, so he's not on the active roster, but the two brothers are back together again now in a Padre uniform.
Yeah, and again, Atlanta had been trying to trade him for a while, meaning Melvin Upton. They've been trying to trade him, and when the Braves said, hey, we really want this guy, Kimbrell, they said, okay, here's the deal. You can have him, but you're taking Melvin with it. And they said, okay, but you're taking Quentin back. Quentin was released before they were playing that series, freeway series against the Dodgers, and before Quentin even got back to San Diego, he'd already been released.
Three and one on the younger brother, Justin Upton. No, mom and dad enjoyed the quick route from Virginia over to Atlanta. Now they're going to have to go out to the West Coast to see their kids play.
Yeah, not a bad place to travel to.
No, it's not.
Nothing against Cleveland, but I played there. Okay, so I'm just saying it's better than going to Cleveland. The outskirts of Cleveland were great. In the old ballpark, it was not so nice. The new ballpark, very nice.
The center of the basketball universe right now. 3-2, nobody out, first and second. Swung on and missed. And De La Rosa strikes out Upton for the first out in the second inning. Rockies fans, you can join the conversation. Send us your thoughts and photos via Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook using the hashtag Toyota Talk. We'll show some of your Toyota Talk comments throughout the ballgame. Will Middlebrook struck out his first time. That's a bit in. Here's the 1-1 to Middlebrooks, and that ball's hit well to center field, and it's over the head of Charlie Blackmon. Norris is going to score. Kemp's right behind him. He's going to score. It's a triple for Will Middlebrooks, and it's 8-0 San Diego. Last year, it'd take the Padres a week to score 8 runs.
I'm just starting to say, if they're going to keep acting like this, we're not going to invite you back for tomorrow. Holy mackerel. Not right. Yeah, the ball hit. Charlie took a break on it. I think he thought he actually felt like he had a pretty good chance to catch the baseball. That backspin carry just out of the reach by a couple of inches over the glove of Charlie. Then it's just off to the races. Yeah, Steve Foster out to check on De La Rosa now. De La Rosa, yeah, pretty disgusted right now. I'm sure that he doesn't want to have a lot of conversation with anybody.
And now the Rockies are going to have to get activity. First guy up will be Christian Friedrich. Rockies in the midst of playing 13 in a row. And most teams like to have a long guy. The Rockies are not adverse to carrying an extra pitcher when they're going to be home for a while because of the dynamics of Coors Field. Right now they don't have that luxury, and Bergman's probably down, so you're short in the pen. Of course, you didn't anticipate De La Rosa struggling the way he has. 8 runs on 9 hits. Well, and to be honest, virtually every ball hit tonight's been squared up.
Well, here's the thing about it. When you're on the road and you get down like this, you're thinking as a manager, I've got 8 innings to cover. When you're at home, you got 9. You're adding an extra inning in there, so you might have to work your closer a 9th when you don't necessarily want to.
Jerko breaks his bat.
Right now, you just kind of hoping things slow down a little bit.
Kemp, Upton, and Jerko came in a combined 32 for 73, 438 average against De La Rosa. Jerko has a double. Kemp has a double and a single. Upton is 1 for 2. So for whatever reason, because we know how much success De La Rosa's had, he's not handled that threesome, and he hasn't tonight either. 2-2. Rockies bring the infield in again. Middlebrooks after the triples at third. Need a strikeout here. 3-2. Hundley with the block on that cutter.
Doug, what's the temperature? It seems a little chilly out right now. I think it's a little cooler at 52. What do you think, Drew? The scoreboard says 52.
It does feel a little chilly.
Rain,
than that,
rain drops some things. other than just water.
That's a walk. This would be a difficult situation, obviously, for De La Rosa. It becomes a difficult situation for Walt. And how far do you go?
Well, Walt just doesn't. I mean, this is the ace. You don't want him out there, even though it's his first start at 2015. You don't want him out there taking an unnecessary beating either.
Yonder Alonso, he had a 2-run single. What are you seeing, George? Pitches up? I mean, because
well,
again,
not throwing enough strikes. I mean, honestly, he doesn't have control of the split finger where he needs it to go. That's where he's falling behind a little bit in counts. He's coming with the cutter. You know, he's throwing 48 pitches, 30 for strikes. But you know, it's more belt line stuff. See, I mean, that pitch is pretty much up to a lefty. He's had a lot of miss strikes, meaning, you know, they call them quality strikes in the stat room. Is it a good strike or a bad strike? Meaning it's up in the zone, but a strike. He hadn't had as good a consistency with the split. I'm sure he was a little bit amped up coming into this ball game to pitch well. It would only be natural to see that.
Two and one on Yonder Alonso. One out. Middlebrooks at third. He tripled. Jerko just walked. He's at first. And that misses. 3-1. Got to figure Friedrich's ready. And if De La Rosa were to lose Alonso, which is Walt doesn't want to go to a bullpen in the second inning, he may be forced to. This is going to get another run home. Dickerson in left field. Sac fly for Alonso. 9-0 San Diego.
3 RBIs in the ball game for Alonso now.
Give you an idea. Last year the Rockies played 9 games at Coors Field against the Padres. They gave up 31 runs against San Diego in those 9 games.
Says a lot about this one, doesn't it?
They've played an inning and 2/3 and they've given up 9. Barmes pops out, we think. LeMahieu makes the catch. Good running catch by DJ. 4 more runs for the Padres. 9 runs, 9 hits. Who wants tacos? If the Rockies score 7 or more runs, go to participating Colorado Taco Bell locations the next day. Do it between 4 and 6 to get your Rockies taco special. Live Moss at Taco Bell. Odrisamer Despaigne making his 2nd start of the year. Padres employ a shift with Cargo, 3 on the right side.
Yeah, Friedrich's yet to sit down either, so that tells me a little bit of something that's going on. Of where they are, it's Christian may be asked to go out and pitch the 3rd and 4th inning for the Rockies, hopefully.
Despaigne in 12 2/3 has allowed 2 hits. Cargo had a good look at that one. It's 1 and 2. It's a perfect example. When you're going well for Cargo, he lines that into the gap or over the wall. When things are off just slightly, you foul it back. So that pitch was up. Despaigne periodically, George, will throw that real loopy, slow curveball in the 67-mile-an-hour range.
Well, he has that little shoulder turn there. That caught him right on the back of the heel. See if he recovers in time to get him. Well, that's just no luck at all there.
Yeah, doesn't that figure, right? Can't hit it any harder, but turns into an out.
That's all he can do, too. Shake his head a little bit. Despaigne kicks it with the backside of the foot and able to locate the baseball. That's the hardest thing about it. When a pitcher gets hit, a lot of times you feel the pain. And you start jumping around everywhere and you're looking for the baseball, but he was able to locate it and make a nice play at first base.
His batted ball in play, we've used that number before, and we tell you that the major league average last year was 295. In years past, it's been around 300. Balls that are put in play are going to find holes and drop for 300 average league wide. He's showing a lot of pain naturally. And so far in 13 innings, his batted ball in play is below 060, which tells you, because he's not a strikeout guy, George, which tells you balls are going to start finding holes against him.
Well, eventually, that's exactly right, because that batted balls in plays takes walks and strikeouts out. It's basically any other out you can make other than swinging the bat. So at 295 and he's hitting 060, yeah, it's all going to change pretty quick. Yeah, I forgot home runs are out too in that mix.
Home runs aren't included.
These are balls that land within the fence and the white lines, right, Doug?
That's right. Outside.
Foul pop-ups are taken out.
Correct. Outside on Morneau, who has a 371 lifetime average when competing against the Padres.
And not to get in a long discussion about batted balls in play. I mean, a lot of guys like to look at that. Obviously, it's a new stat in baseball, but then I look at a Mark Reynolds of what he is. He's a 220 lifetime hitter that strikes out a lot. But if you take the strikeouts out, he's a 288 hitter or a 290 hitter. But he strikes out, so how you can't take those out. For me, if I'm looking at a guy like Mark Reynolds, who now plays for St. Louis, I can't take away his strikeouts and evaluate the player. I just can't do that.
It just tells you when folks have been lucky, offensively or defensively. For instance, if a guy is a lifetime offensively, George, 310 hitter, batted balls in play, and you roll into August one year and he's hitting 385 batted balls in play, he's had some good fortune.
And his average better be up.
And yes, the average certainly will reflect that.
Well, like we've said numerous times, and I'll say it again and again and again, Parma's a soft roller. He'll flip, high throw. They got him. But look at the back of the bubblegum card, and it says BA, stands for batting average. That's what I look at. What do they hit? Pretty nice play over at first base by Alonso. He jumps to catch the baseball and then gets the tag right on the inside part of that jersey. You see that jersey kind of separate from the body with the tag.
Yeah, you always worry about.
Right there, you get him.
You always worry about this if you're a trainer, because when all of a sudden a guy has to change his stride and then reach for the bag. And
well, not only that, for the defender also, because a lot of times they reach out to tag. They get spun around by a 220-pound athlete. A lot of times pulls the muscles or pulls the shoulder out of socket.
That's why first basemen are taught to spin with it when they're applying that tag if they can. Now, Alonso was airborne there. DJ with another hit. Wow. First Rockies base runner. Fitting that it would come from LeMahieu, who's hitting .463. He went 7 for 16 on that road trip. Had most of yesterday off. It was his first non-start of the year.
Take a look at this again. They're just trying to get ahead with that fastball. Going to run it down and away from him. It ran right out over the middle of the plate. Just nice, beautiful inside-out swing. Take advantage of one of the holes in the infield. He does a great job of it.
Nick Hundley, traded last year midseason by the Padres to Baltimore. Went to the postseason with the Orioles and Buck Showalter. And then the Rockies signed him to a 2-year deal. There's Dave Roberts, the right-hand man to Bud Black. Dave will be a manager one day.
And it's not about managing the game so much as it is managing the locker room, managing your personnel, relationships with your general manager, with your scouting staff. Now all of a sudden with the analytic team of how you accept things in baseball. The managing of the game, guys define the roles. You know, in your bullpen where you have to really start managing back there. Mark Kotsay, longtime outfielders, and the new hitting coach there. Darren Balsley's been a pitching coach there for a number of years. Glenn Hoffman at third, Jose Valentin. This guy's been with this organization. A lot of stability there in Bud's coaching staff.
You know who really stepped in it? Mark Kotsay, because they were going through hitting instructors every year. He's the new hitting instructor, and by the way, he's got Upton, he's got Kemp, he's got Will Myers.
All-Star, Rookie of the Year, All-Star. That's just the outfield. Right. And they've got some players at the minor league level. Everybody thinks they've traded away. They have. They've traded away a tremendous amount of their pitching. But they have gotten a little bit back. But they got rid of Whistler in the trade, who was a very good high prospect with 9-5 in AAA last year. He went in the Kimbrel trade to Atlanta. They have position guys. And they are hurting a little bit for some depth at the minor league level. But I'll tell you how strong their bullpen is now. And I really thought this was two guys that, to me, were lights out, and that's Nick Vincent and Quackenbush, and they're both in AAA because of the trade.
Quackenbush was closing games for them at one point last year.
I mean, this guy was pretty. He's been great in AAA, but he just had options. I mean, he got caught in a jam. There wasn't anything to do. You know, to sign James Shields late in the season as they did, I think that was huge. Obviously, late in spring.
Ooh,
that got him in the chest.
Yeah, there's been pinball with him, and then Alonso misses the flip. DJ won't advance from second and third. But that's the second time in the inning that Despaignet's been hit on the foot and now in the chest, as the Rockies have back-to-back base hits with 2 outs, and Rafael Inoa coming up. The trainer once again will go out.
That's a scary reaction. Both those balls got squared up very well. Bud Black's going to make a jog out this time. He didn't last time. Let the trainers handle. Wow. You know, I think that caught all the D in San Diego. That got it pretty good right there.
Assistant trainer Paul Navarro's out. Despaignet's got a smile on his face, and he may ask Bud, can they put an L screen out here? Is that legal?
Let's see, the Rockies could do something here. You got a couple of guys on base now, 2 hard hit balls.
So here's Rafi Noah, 15th big league start. It's his first start this year. Guy who bided his time in the Dodger organization, never got an opportunity there. The Rockies have really liked what he's brought. Did a good job when he was called up last year, last couple of months, and he had a really good March this year to earn a spot on the 25-man roster. DJ's going to try to move up. Norris got it. Wow. You ought to make sure when you're down by a big margin that you can get there. That ends the inning. We'll go to the third. The Rockies trail 9-zip.
Nothing San Diego. Bad start for the Rockies, but a good day for Justin Morneau. We want to show you the award that he got before the game started today. It's the James Tip O'Neill Award, given out every year to the top Canadian baseball player by the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. So they had a contingent here from St. Mary's, Ontario. Last year, Justin won the award. He got it today, his silver platter. He's got 3 of them now. A few more guys, and he says he's going to be able to serve dinner on it at home. But good for him. 2006, 2008, and last year, the best Canadian player in the game. Tip O'Neill, by the way, in 1887, hit .435, second guy to win the triple crown that year. And Justin, guys, knew all his stats. So a great day for Justin Morneau.
He keeps collecting awards, doesn't he?
You know what? It's always a good day when you start to get those awards. By the way, if you've noticed, Christian Friedrich's now on the mound, and De La Rosa's day is over. His 9 runs given up tie a career high. Well, you're not treating Christian any better.
And Despagne on an 0-2 pitch with a base hit to right. 10th hit for San Diego. And that's his first big league hit. He wants the baseball naturally.
Well, you look at Christian, he's adapted very well to the bullpen. 6 1/3, 5 strikeouts, just a walk on the year. The opponents hit .250 against him. A couple of holes on the year. This is a different kind of hold there, partner. You're trying to hold the opposition to 9 right now. They're throwing up crooked numbers.
Will Myers, a single and a run scored in the first, and then in the second he led off with a ground ball to short, went right between the legs of Troy. His first error of the year, and he would eventually score. So the 9 runs allowed by De La Rosa, the most of his career. For what it's worth, 7 were earned, with 2 unearned last inning. Myers, 2013 Rookie of the Year. 23 first place votes. That's a strike. Jose Iglesias was second. Chris Archer, Dan Straley, 2, 3, and 4. San Diego came into the ballgame 3rd in the league in runs scored in the National League. That's going to go up with 9 already on the board. And once again, they were last in baseball scoring runs a year ago. Their statistics offensively were astonishingly bad. One out, strikeout of Myers. Norris will be next. The numbers from last year: 226 average, on base percentage 292. That's all last in baseball. Slugging percentage last 342. Average with runners in scoring position 220. Just 3.3 runs a game. And now this year, those slashes are 7th, 11th, and 7th. 7th in batting average, 11th in on base percentage, 7th in slugging percentage. Entering the ball game tonight.
Well, they've scored 69 runs now. This will be in 14 games. This game's not over yet. Excuse me, 68 runs. Los Angeles was leading going into tonight's ball game with 63. Arizona was 60 in the National League. Both those teams are off tonight. There's just 3 games in the National League. Cubs are tied with Pittsburgh 1-1. Cincinnati over Milwaukee 6-0. Tough year for Doug Melvin and Renicky and the gang in Milwaukee.
It remains a ball and 2 strikes on Norris. A double and a single, 2 runs scored. The first 4 guys in the lineup have scored 7 runs. And they have a combined 6 hits. 6 for 8. So again, Myers reached on that error. And the Rockies, George, we'll see how this goes. May be forced to make another move tomorrow to get another arm in the bullpen.
Well, that's the thing about it. I mean, you're just going to have to protect yourself every game, and that's part of the National League where you have pinch hitting. You have a lot of things going on. Sometimes you might let, Christian hadn't gone 3 innings all year. So once you get through 3 with him, if he gets there, through 3 comfortably, now who you looking? Okay, now you just threw 5. You got to pick up 4 more innings, which you got guys that go inning, but then you're hitting. Bergman might be able to come back tomorrow and give you a couple innings. It creates a lot of logjam when your starter doesn't work deep into the game where you have to go to that bullpen early a lot of times.
Played for a number of different managers. Everybody handles a closer differently. Some, if a team's going through a bad stretch, will get the closer an inning, even if it's in a game where it's not a closing situation. The team may be losing. Other managers will say, if it's not a closing situation, I'm going to keep him on the sideline. I think it depends on the guy, doesn't it, George?
Well, it does depend on the guy. When a closer hadn't worked 2 or 3 days, then you can run him out there for an inning. But you got to be careful with it, and they'll say, well, he needs to get an inning of work anyway. Other guys, closers, accomplished closers, they call down to the bullpen and go, you want an inning? No, I'm good. It's 16-0. I can't get my juices flowing. It's not a 1-0 ball game. I don't want in this thing.
Lengthy at bat for Derek Norris. Strike 3. He knew it. 2 outs. So Matt Kemp, a double and a single, 3 RBIs. Look at the new look. Yeah, they needed name tags on their hats for Bud Black. Probably not. Sean Kelly, Craig Kimbrell, best closer in the game the last few years. Brandon Morrow, James Shields from the American League pennant-winning Royals. 2 new catchers. Will Nieves, a former Rocky. Barmes, Will Middlebrooks. And then they just remade their outfield. The only holdover in their outfield is Will Venable. And Will's versatile because he can play all 3 outfield spots, and he's their 4th outfielder. Seth Smith was sent to Seattle.
Matt Kemp can play all 3 outfield positions need be. He's very comfortable in right. He's played center for the Dodgers. He'd go there if he has to.
He kind of fell out of favor in center field with the Dodgers. And there was some concern, could Will Myers play center field every day? I understand we're just 2 weeks into the season, but the report so far is he's been pretty good.
He's been very good out there. Well, they've got a big ballpark. Ball doesn't carry. Allows you time to utilize that speed, get to a lot of balls.
Got young legs.
Well, and he's got young legs on both sides of him. It can cover a lot of grounds too. Upton and Kemp can both run well, so that helps. The biggest thing Bud talked about today is what's helped him. He feels like it's going to benefit his ball club is with the addition of Upton and Kemp. It's allowed him to push Jerko and Alonso down the lineup, and to take the pressure off of having to carry everything.
Yeah, Yonder Alonso is a middle of the order guy for them the last couple of years.
Right, and he said it allows them, and he said now it gets pretty dangerous towards the back end of this. You know, he's hitting 6th in the lineup now instead of 3rd, or 7th, excuse me, instead of 3rd or 4th.
Outside 1-2 on Matt Kemp. On the ground is short. Troy's got it over to DJ, and the Rockies. Christian Friedrich works a scoreless 3rd inning. 9-0 Padres. $2.5 million dream house or $2 million in cash. Help out a great cause in the process. Visit milehighraffle.com for more information. Nolan Arenado was a late scratch, sore wrist, suffered during batting practice. So Rafael Inoa's playing 3rd. Inoa's at the plate, batting 8th, leading things off against Espana in the 3rd. 9-0 San Diego. Padres came in 8-5. The Rockies at 7-5.
Now the Rockies try to get Espana off the mound. They've hit him with a line drive in the foot, line drive square in the chest. Hadn't worked. He's been able to battle through some things. Couple of hits given up now. 4 hits total for him in over 13 innings.
Ball and a strike on Inoa. Espana, 5-pitch mix, fastball, cutter, slider, curveball, changeup.
You know what he reminds me of, honestly? He reminds me of an old-fashioned Latin pitcher. You know, the guys that you used to see that threw everything in the kitchen sink at you, and they'd flip a fastball from about 2 arm angles, sometimes 3. They'd throw the cutter out of there, throw the sinker, change up, Big curveball, slow curveball, hard slider. And they knew how to command all of it.
Kind of describing Livan Hernandez, aren't you?
Yeah, basically. El Duque was a little bit similar to that, too. And don't forget to get your tickets this weekend. The Giants, where the world champion Giants, will be in town to take on the Colorado Rockies, and tickets still available Thursday through Sunday. Excuse me, what did I say, Thursday? Friday through Sunday. The Padres play here through Thursday.
Outside, a ball and a strike on Friedrich. And Espanier recovers to make the play. 2 outs.
Well, the sad part about it, Espanier, and we're mentioning everything about him here. The earned run average at 0.77 and the whole deal, 0.63 now, 14 in the 3rd inning. Come Saturday, he's back in the bullpen again. He and Kennedy, who pitched today, and he's pitched in Peoria in an extended spring game, went 6 innings, 1 hit, didn't give up any runs, nor should he, against some young rookie ball guys. But he ended up pitching very well today. He will pitch Saturday. And Espanier will go back to the bullpen.
You know, we've talked a lot about the Padres' new look offense, but that rotation is really formidable because Ian Kennedy, 21 game winner a couple years back with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and effective a year ago, he's pitching out of the 4th spot in that rotation.
Well, James Shields gets added. That's one of them. Ross, another that throws the ball extremely well.
I mean, Tyson Ross is a guy that's emerging. Cashner, who won't pitch in this series, he went yesterday.
Beat the Cubs yesterday.
Cashner has a big arm. And then Brandon Morrow, another new addition. 2-1 on Blackman. Charlie goes to first. Dickerson, who struck out looking on a pitch that appeared to be low, will get his second look at Espanier. Rockies had that interesting road trip in that it was reminiscent of last June when they swept the Giants. They roll into LA and they get in turn swept, culminating last year when Kershaw threw that no-hitter, near perfect game. And the Dodgers outscored the Rockies over the weekend 20-6.
See, there's that slow hook you talked about earlier.
He has a different grip on it also, George. I've never seen this before. He kind of crosses his forefinger over his middle finger.
Well, what he tries to do, and quite honestly, is he's trying to take the baseball to where you put so much pressure against where it's a big pull that way. And it, you know, to give you a little bit of logic about this here in a minute, not to get too scientific on the pitch, we'll show you his grip and then try to explain what he's trying to do with it right after that. We'll do that the next inning when he comes back out again.
Dickerson grounds out. The Rockies done in their half of the 3rd. We go to the 4th. The Padres leading 9-0 at Coors Field. Ford Escape, smart, safe, and fun to drive. Ford Escape, go further. By Southwest Airlines, book your low fare now at southwest.com. And by CenturyLink, your link to what's next. Well, the Rockies down 9-0. It's been a change already. When you get one of these games, you usually see changes, toward the back third of the game. But Drew Stubbs has come in for Charlie Blackmon.
No, Charlie's gone to left.
Oh, excuse me. Dickerson's come out.
Right.
My apologies. So Dickerson has come out. I'll have to check and see if Corey injured himself. It's a little early to say you're throwing up the white flag. You don't see guys pulled out of the game in the fourth inning when it's lopsided.
And I will say this: this is no offense to Corey Dickerson at all. But when managers start to make those changes, it's usually the Tulowitzkis, the Morneau, and it's the older guys that have been playing a while. It's not the young guy.
It's exactly. So we'll have to find out what's going on with Dickerson. Arenado, again tonight, was scratched about 10 minutes before the start of the game. Sore left wrist. He apparently hurt it while swinging the bat during BP. Dickerson is not in the dugout. Want to know on Middlebrooks down low 2-0. Let's try to see if we can decipher anything by Dickerson running to first base. Yeah, something's up. Middlebrooks a line triple to dead center field to drive in 2 in the second inning. Takes another strike. Line drive, Eddie Noah. 2 outs. Jed Jerko will take his turn. A double and a walk tonight for Jerko. With every challenge call, the Subaru Eyesight Review will determine the outcome. Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. De La Rosa went just 2 innings, 9 runs, 7 earned, 9 hits, a walk and 3 strikeouts. Freeberg took over to begin the third. Got 2 outs here in the fourth. Rockies been out hit 10-2. Good inning for Christian. We'll go to the bottom of the fourth. 9-0 Padres. out players, and I don't know if there's an injury involved here, but Justin Upton's out of the ball game, and Will Venable takes over in left field. Tulowitzki's going to lead things off in the bottom of the fourth against Odrisamer Despaigne.
And you know, when they had the abundance of outfielders, you start to pick, who do you want to keep? Is it Venable? Is it Quentin? You know, you start to look down there. Who do we really want to keep in there? Venable's so versatile. He can help you do a lot of things, run into a fastball, hit it out of the ballpark at times.
20+ home runs a couple of years ago.
Well, Drew and I were talking before we went to break about the unusual grip of the curveball, of what Despaigne does with the baseball, and it creates kind of a funny spin to the ball where it's still a 12-6 rotation. There's a base hit by Troy Tulowitzki on a fastball down and away. As you take a look at the grip, we're going to show you his grip of the curveball. And so what you're basically seeing is this, folks. You're going to see this. The index finger is a little bit punched up on it, so it almost looks like he's trying to throw a knuckle curve. Then he lays his finger against this seam here. And so what he's doing is he's really pulling and spinning with everything on his fingers. And what it does is just double the pressure. And again, when I teach a curveball at home, you know, a lot of guys want to get only one knuckle of pressure against it. Despaigne gets all 3 knuckles of strength on the baseball. So you're pulling all the way with that 3-knuckle pull is what I call it. And so if you're pulling with 3 knuckles, obviously you got more strength on the baseball. And the more friction you have against a baseball, the less velocity you're going to be able to throw it. And so a lot of times coaches will teach you, choke that curveball way back in your hand and throw it. You're just putting a lot more friction against the ball, and you're creating a slower pitch out of it, but you're getting the same break out of it. And that's kind of what he's doing with the pitches outside.
Has not thrown many of those tonight.
And a lot of guys won't throw a curveball here. It's going to be cutter and changeup at Coors Field. There's one of them right there.
Yeah.
See, you ordered it, and he let you have it.
He must have been listening.
Well, he was. Got an earpiece in during the game. Kind of like Doug. Doug's got one. Sam has one.
One and one on Cargo. Cargo hit a smash off of Despaigne's foot and was thrown out by a quarter stride. Leading off the second inning. Later in that inning, Nick Hundley hit a line drive off his chest that ricocheted far enough away that Nick could reach. And Cargo with a slow roller to short, and Barmes makes the play on the right side. So Tulo goes to second. That'll bring up Morneau. This ball unloaded to the gap in right center field. It'll get a run home. Tulowitzki scores on the base hit by Morneau. And it's 9-1. Morneau is third RBI.
Yeah, Justin came into this game hitting .214. You know he's going to end up around the 290 to 320 mark when the season's all said and done. I mean, you're talking about a National League batting champion. You're talking about an MVP that can swing the bat. This is one of those change-ups out of the hand. You saw the grip of the baseball, and kind of like a forkball Fosh coming in there with the late move to it, but it stayed up off the end of the bat. Justin swings, gets it into the outfield. Kemp in a 9-1 ball game, or 9-0 ball game at the time, allowed the run. Morneau stuck at first base.
Well, that was a notable hit as well for Morneau. It was his 1,508th hit of his career, which puts him in second place by himself. Just moved ahead of George Wood on the all-time hit list for Canadian-born players. Guy we all know well. He was number 1, Larry Walker. Let's check our big hit presented by Mako. Turn the car you drive into the car you love. This would make it 4-3 against Greinke. LeMahieu on Saturday night, leaving the building. His first home run of the year, a 2-run shot. Unfortunately, game got away from the Rockies after that. 2-2 on DJ. Career .341 hitter against Padres pitching. Not only is this impressive because nobody hits for a high average, it seems like, at Petco.
No, they don't. I mean, that's just one of the toughest ballparks. You got to think line drive gaps at the most.
DJ slices it foul.
Yeah, one of those sneaky quick pitch fastballs at 92.
Yeah, the one time, I always point this out. First series in, it goes back about 7-8 years. The Rockies scored 32 runs in 3 games at Petco. Yeah. Remember that one? We're like, what's going on?
I also remember sitting there for 22 innings one night, playing for a while.
I remember it also because you couldn't find any food.
Got a little hungry after 9 hours. I was hungry. I found some.
You found like a slice and a half.
No, I think I got a whole pizza. I went busy. Been sitting there for about 7-8 hours without eating, and I knew it was going to be a while before we got to the airplane headed to Houston. I just know the sun was coming up when we landed in Houston. That's all I remember.
Yeah, there was no help burger to take care of us that night. Not right. At the 22nd inning. Two and 2 with 1 out. And Despaigne with his second, checking his 3rd strikeout of the ball game. He struck out the first 2, Blackman and Dickerson. So Nick Hundley, the longtime Padre. Probably looking over there saying, now who do I know? He remains really good friends with Will Venable. I know that. He's looking out there, going Middlebrooks. No, don't know him. Know that guy. Don't know Myers. Played against Kemp a bunch. Played against Barmas. He knows the second baseman Jerko.
He knows a lot of those guys down in the bullpen. Majority of them. It just tells you about the depth they have in that pitching now after they sent Quackenbush and Nick Vincent, 2 of the best setup guys in baseball, back to AAA.
Nick was a Padre for 7 years. Played 510 games in a San Diego uniform. Getting rave reviews from the Rockies pitching staff on how he's handled that group, his communication skills, game calling, ability to block pitches. Lead off the slider, 3-2, so Morneau will be in motion.
A short, quick delivery, rotates that upper side, and then just flips the ball at you, and you don't know if it's going to cut, if it's going to be a slider, is it going to spin a breaking ball on me, or is he going to throw the fastball?
A walk, and now they're 2 on for Inoue. Second walk allowed by Despaigne. Rafael Inoue grounded to short his first time. Rockies have scored a run in the inning. Tulowitzki led off with a base hit. He eventually scored on a Morneau single to right center. And that'll squirt through. Here comes Morneau to the plate. The Rockies have another run. Rafael Ynoa's first hit of the year.
Yeah, a lot of first happened with the swing of the bat. The first base hit, the first RBI, and all done with 2 outs. That's the key to it, to continue to swing the bat. Friedrich will get a chance here with first and second down 9-2. He'll swing the bat again in this ball game. Already been up 1 time. This was a slow breaking ball. They just really kept the hands back well on the Subaru Supermo. Very good job of doing that. And then just drove it out of the reach of Jed Jerko at second base. Last year, 10 of 21 with runners in scoring position.
Snap throw to second, and Vargas doesn't know where it is. He's running out towards center field. It's right where he was lying down.
Kick save, huh? See here, Friedrich trying to bunt for a base hit. The snap throw down by Norris off the line. It looked like it ricocheted off the back of Nick Hundley. Here it looked like the ball caught Hundley right on his tail and then off for Barmas. But he's out if the ball's on the line.
He's out in wiffle ball also.
Oh, you play that way?
You did?
No. You had to catch it. And you had to throw to first. We lived in a big neighborhood out in the country. Ring the bell, mom's cooking, they all showed up.
1-1, sharply hit. Jerko's got it.
Almost did the splits on that one.
In the inning, the Rockies get a couple runs on 3 hits and a walk. It's 9-2 Padres.
Got a Toyota Talk tweet from MLB. It was on this day in 1920 that Fenway Park opened up. Back in 1920. And this week, of course, we're going to celebrate Coors Field turning 20 years old on Sunday. That's the anniversary. 3rd oldest ballpark in the National League. We want to flash back to opening day 2005. That's when Clint Barmas came up with the ball game tied at 10. First pitch he sees from Trevor Hoffman. Still as a rookie, it's his 3rd homer of his career. He hits one out, and the crowd goes crazy, and the team, they win it. That was one of the famous moments here at Coors Field, guys. I talked to Clint Barmas about that today. He does not have the ball, but he remembers it vividly. He's like, yeah, I was 4 for 6 that day. And Ryan Spire got the win in relief in his first Major League appearance. So a historic day here at Coors Field. We're going to celebrate it all weekend, especially Sunday, with some of the guys from '95.
Sounds like a good plan. Clint Barmas on deck. Yonder Alonso at the plate. Shift is on. Christian Friedrich, 3rd inning of work. Strike 1. Alonso, 2-run single in the first, sac fly in the second. He's driven in 3. Now ball toward Tulowitzki. He stayed on the left side.
I'm not going to brag too much here. I don't
over.
want to get carried away with it, Drew, but boy, Christian Friedrichs come in and did a nice job of slamming the door shut and buying some things for that bullpen. Ask about the Rockies buy one get one free suite offer. Game dates available against the Dodgers and Giants. Call today, 303 Rockies.
So here's Barmes, the hero of that opener in 2005. That was a year that in the month of April he was hitting close to 400, and then he had the mishap and broke his collarbone. He was an early favorite for Rookie of the Year. 1-2. Some of you may recall when Clint first went to junior college, then he went on to Indiana State. He was a basketball player also.
A very good athlete. Tremendous athlete.
Popped up right side. DJ long run. Morneau is going to get closest, and he can't hold it. That's a difficult play.
You're looking back over his shoulder. Morneau's going to be upset with himself, and it was much like he was in L.A. on a high pop fly foul territory that he was charged with an error, and the next pitch guy hits a home run. This was down the line. You can see looking back over the shoulder. Difficult looking back over that shoulder, but it drew leather. And you can see, watch Morneau's expression, folks. He's going to tell you, I should have caught this ball. He's just not going to be happy that he didn't come up with some leather on that. Kept that ball in the glove. That was a hard play.
Yeah, that was a difficult play. The one yesterday was routine, and I don't know if he lost it in the sun. This ball's well hit to center field. Going back Stubbs, and Drew runs out of room and hits the base of the wall, and it's a double for Barmes with 1 out. Again, people remember Clint has surprising power.
He does. Very strong guy. Takes very good care of himself as far as the weightlifting and getting stronger and staying strong and taking care of the body. As a utility guy the last couple of years of his career. This ball, deepest part of the park, 415 feet. Hit right off of the wall. Stubbs took it as far as he could. Once he got to the warning track, tried to reach up, tucked in. And the ball hit about 3 feet up on the wall. And getting signed straight out on the mound right now. And Barmes out on second base. Good effort by Stubbs.
2009, Barmes hit 23 home runs, drove in 76 for the Rockies. It was his career best in home runs, but he's hit double digits in home runs 4 times in his career. His next RBI will be the 400th of his career. Despagne is 1 for 2. He had his first big league hit in the 3rd. Native of Havana, Cuba. Two outs.
Well, Troy Hawkins is warming up in the Rockies bullpen. And it's about a max for Friedrich. And you're looking at pitches, you're thinking 45, he's out. It's over. He's at 40 right now.
Will Myers is 1 for 3. He scored 2 runs as he reached on an error by Tulowitzki. Breaking ball for a strike. Will Myers, when he was with the Royals before the trade for James Shields, and now they're teammates. Will Myers was rated by a number of publications as the #1 prospect in the game, not just with the Royals, but the #1 prospect in the game. That's what Kansas City gave up to get James Shields. And another hit for Myers, and another run comes home for San Diego. They've hit double digits. It's 10-2. 8th RBI for Myers.
Very bad breaking ball hitter, but a very good fastball hitter. You see here, you got a fastball up out over the plate, a chance to extend. Just hit that ball right back up the middle for a base hit. He scored 10 runs in one other ball game. That came in a win against the San Francisco Giants, a 10-2 ball game.
They've out hit Colorado tonight. So far 12-5.
Yeah, a long night for Steve Foster and the pitching staff when you have a starter go just 2 innings, and it's unfortunate that it went that way early in this game, but you just kind of got to ask guys to shoulder some things and, you know, get me through this inning. That'll take the Rockies through 5, and then you can kind of piece it together. LaTroy more than likely give you 1, maybe 2, depending on how quick the innings are.
Padres are 8 for 11 with runners in scoring position. The fact that they've had 11 opportunities here in the 5th inning is obviously alarming. This ball's well hit right center field. Cargo can't make the catch, and another run will score. That'll be a double for Norris, his 2nd of the game. Myers scores all the way from first base. It's 11-2. Good effort by Gonzalez.
And unfortunately for Christian, he's just been pushed out over that pitch limit that he's normally not used to working in a ball game, and now he's kind of paying the price for it. The last couple of hitters on balls that were up in the strike zone. Norris almost hits this ball out of the ballpark. Gonzalez giving chase. One last leap there. Did not come off the wall like they thought. Kind of died right there at the bottom of the wall. Stubbs gave chase just out of the reach of Carlos Gonzalez, and Walt's going to be forced to go down to the bullpen now because of the pitch count. And this is one of those that never show up in a box score, but it's a pat on the back to Christian Friedrich.
So Christian goes 2 2/3. 11-2 San Diego. Hawkins will be next. In the 5th inning, Hawkins will take over for Friedrich. League leaders are brought to you by your Colorado Hyundai dealers. Extra base hits, the Dodgers out in front of everybody, and then the Padres and the Rockies. Tell you how hot LA is. The Rockies were within 1 of LA yesterday before the game started, and then the Dodgers threw out 9 extra base hits. Actually, let me correct that. They threw out 10 extra base hits yesterday. All 9 Padres starters have a hit this evening. Matt Kemp's at the plate. 2-run double, run scoring single, and a ground ball to short.
Hey, take a look at LaTroy's numbers on the season. Very high earned run average. That came just because of a couple of ball games, 4 2/3. Yeah, you just kind of watch. When a reliever gets blown up at the start of the season, you just kind of got to wash that away and see where he goes from that point forward and hope that it turns out okay.
Two 2-0 on Matt Kemp. Matt Kemp with a dozen RBIs already. Think about the Padres a year ago where they just couldn't score to save themselves. They were led by Jed Jerko's 51 RBIs. That's the lowest total for a player to lead his team since the schedule added 8 games back in '60. Went from 154 to 162. 51 RBIs was the lowest total for a team leader.
Yet their bullpen was very good. Starting rotation started to show a lot of promise because they finished 3rd in the West.
Well, George, despite their offensive limitations a year ago, they still went 77-85. I mean, they were a few games away from being a 500 club.
Well, you can't hide the fact they had a poor offense, but obviously they did a lot of things right because they were only 8 games under 500 and they played pretty good baseball.
I've always felt like Bud Black, and I know you concur, one of the top managers in the National League, doesn't always get credit for that because he's been short-handed talent-wise. Now some people are saying, well, a ton of pressure on Bud Black because the Padres have all these horses. I'm not going to shy away from that. But I will tell you, he's been a very good manager in years past and has had limited resources. 162 game schedule actually came in 61 for the American League, 62 for the National League. 2-2 on Kent.
Pretty good pitch right there. Good fastball outside corner. Now the 4th strike zone doesn't lie. Needed a Subaru Supermo, although the Supermo's offset just a little bit. Pretty good square up there. I mean, you're not going to get it if it's off the plate, and it was, but it looked good in the beginning to all of us. Drew and I called it a strike.
3-2 on Kent. Derek Norris, who doubled at second base. There are 2 outs. And Kemp is being a pain in the neck right now. Matt out of Oklahoma City.
Well, he's going to play basketball coming out of it. Looked like going to Kansas. That's what type of player he was. And then he did a private showcase that the Dodgers went to. And the rest, as they say, is history. Very accomplished basketball player in the Oklahoma City and the state of Oklahoma.
This one's going to drop foul as well. Kemp in less than 130 career games against the Rockies has hit 30 home runs, driven in more than 100 in his career. That's how good their pitching was last year. The Padres were 53-12 when they scored 4 runs or more. Just they didn't do that too frequently. Tulo can't get it. Norris is going to come home. And it's 12-2. It's a 4 RBI night for Matt Kemp. That run will be charged to Christian Friedrich. So Christian goes 2 2/3, gives up 3 runs on 4 hits.
Pitched a lot better than what his line's going to actually look like, but that was a good at bat by Matt Kemp. He fought off a number of pitches. You can see all of them throughout the strike zone from Troy Hawkins, and then this ball's going to be out of the reach of Troy Tulowitzki on a soft liner into the outfield. Derek Norris going to come around to score after Norris hit the double in right center field. Now, with all the changes, well, Venable will now hit. These changes started. You'd think you're kind of started to get into one of those spring training games as things start to flip around and turn in this game. Trouble is, you don't have 75 guys in camp right now. You got 25. Somebody's going to have to play a while.
High fly ball by Venable to deep right, and Cargo leaps, can't get it. Home run. Second homer on the season for Venable. Towering 2-run shot to right. All 9 starters have a hit. Now a guy coming off the bench in his first at bat has hit a home run. 14-2.
I really thought Cargo was going to get to this baseball. He jumped right at the last second. Just over the fence, I think. I don't think it hit the yellow fence. I think Cargo got back to that. It was just on the back side of that fence and out of the reach of Cargo and out of the ballpark. Right off the leather, hit that bar that's behind the yellow and then off into the Rockies bullpen.
You know, with the onslaught for the Padres, that's the first ball they've hit out of the yard. They have 15 hits. Middlebrook strikes out to end the inning. A 5 spot in the 5th inning for San Diego. 14-2. Yeah, cover your eyes. 14 runs, 15 hits for the Padres. The Rockies 2-5-1. The return of Jorge De La Rosa, forgettable one. 9 runs, 7 earned. He lasted just 2 innings. Padres have not scored 14 in a game since summer of 2011. Charlie Blackmon 0 for 1 and a walk. Despaigne misses with his first offering. Two and one. Blackmon so far this year hitting .343 against right-handed pitching. Soft liner to Barmes, 1 out.
If you're looking to come out to a ball game, there's always a great way for Rockies tickets to be available. So bookmark Rockies.com/specials and check back throughout the season. That's kind of a neat part of the way of doing it. Pick up some tickets for some series you may want to come out and watch some baseball. Good series remaining here with the Padres. Tuesday, Wednesday, and then a Thursday day game. And Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with the San Francisco Giants.
First AB for Drew Stubbs. Came in for Dickerson. We still don't have a report on Dickerson. He looked like he hurt a leg when he was leaving the box on a ground ball to second in the third.
Yeah, tough thing for Stubbsy so far. 9 at bats, 6 strikeouts on the year.
Well, that's where you hope for small things in a game like this. Stubbs is going to get 2-3 at bats. Hopefully he can square up the ball a couple times and get him going.
Well, not only that, you think about back, some of those at bats too have come against some pretty tough pitching. When you're talking about Clayton Kershaw, left-hander. You're talking about Madison Bumgarner, left-hander. But you're right. I mean, he struggled at the end of spring training. You'd just like to see it get going. It's a need.
Brooks Brown throwing in the Rockies pen. Three and 2. Cubs in the 9th inning leading Pittsburgh 5-1. Cleveland leading the White Sox 3-0. They're in the 9th inning also. Royals over the Twins 4-1 late. And that's 7 strikeouts in 10 at bats. It's been a tough start for Drew Stubbs. See how Walt plays this after this half inning with it being 14-2. See if he gets Tulowitzki off the field. You're a little limited what you could do because Inoa had to start. Arenado's down. Stubbs has already come in for Dickerson.
Yeah, Descalso would have to go to short.
And that's foul. What I meant by limited, you could do it with Tulowitzki, but you probably can't take Cargo out now because you really carry 4 outfielders. Descalso will run out there in batting practice and take fly balls, but that's not going to happen, you would think, tonight. So, as you said earlier, George, some guys are just going to have to play the whole 9.
Yeah,
this is not a spring training game.
That's right.
in the air, shallow center. Myers closing quick, makes the catch, and it's a 1-2-3 fifth inning for Despaigne. 14-2 Padres. Monday night, gloomy at the ballpark. The Rockies trail the Padres 14-2 with George Frazier and Mark Stout on Drew Goodman. And the Rockies, after getting just 2 innings from Jorge De La Rosa in his return, are now on to their 3rd reliever after De La Rosa. Friedrich went 2 2/3. Hawkins a 1/3 of an inning. Brooks Brown will now take the baseball to begin the 6th inning.
Yeah, the right-hander, what a find it was for the Rockies. Came out of the Arizona Diamondbacks, the #1 draft pick by them. He came up last year, pitched very well so far this year. 5 2/3, 3 holes on the year. No 88 whip, which is always impressive. And he'll be here to try to hold the fort down a little bit longer for the Rockies.
Jed Jerko will be first. 1 for 2 and a walk, an RBI double in the first. Padres got 5 in the first against De La Rosa, 4 in the second. Good fastball from Brown at 93, 1-2. Last time the Padres were above 500 was 2010. Same year the Rockies could say they were over 500. They won 83 games that year. The Padres won 90 in 2010. That's a swing and a miss, and Jerko's going to reach because it bounds out of play. Murphy's Law tonight. Whatever can go wrong has gone wrong.
And continues. Yeah, it's crazy right now.
Strikeout, wild pitch, allowing Jerko to reach.
Yeah, it definitely went around. It's just a bad hop off of Nick Hundley and slashed up into the stand. That's the only downside about that.
Yonder Alonso. This should be 2.
Nice. The 2 runs given up on Saturday by Mr. Brown were the first. He snapped a 16-game scoreless streak for Mr. Brown. And very good, very easy double play turn by LeMahieu and Troy Tulowitzki.
Barmes at the plate, 5th inning. He doubled to the base of the center field wall. He would score on a Will Myers base hit. And another hit for Barmes. 16 hit tonight for San Diego. I'm not exaggerating, folks. It had taken them a week most times last year to get 16 hits.
Yeah, it never was easy.
14 runs.
Right. Yeah, it was a little crazy. I mean, and all of a sudden now they're just. Tonight's just one of those nights, folks. I'm sorry. It's not pleasant to watch or for Drew and I to talk about. It's just one of those nights at the ballpark that you wish never happened, but did. It's tough on everyone.
Never good when the opposition pitcher is coming up for the 4th time in the 6th inning. Spagna fouls that one off.
He gets his first career hit in an RBI, and all of a sudden get carried away with swinging the bat a little bit.
Wasn't far from having his first extra base hit. Barmes returns to first. The etiquette rule in place right now, the unwritten etiquette rule. Morneau's playing behind him. Barmes is going to take a bag. Padres a year ago had 16 hits or more in a game 3 times. Wow. They had.
How many hits they have in a 10-2 win against the Giants, Doug?
Well, listen to this, George.
Wow.
They had 4 hits or less in a game last year 18 times. 4 hits or less 18 times last year.
I wonder how many of those games they won, too, though. They probably won like 3. 4 of them? Yeah, 4 of them with 4 hits. A lot easier for Bud Black now to get through this. I mean, Kotze's his hitting coach on his direct left there. Bud
he's going to get a raise after tonight.
Nobody was like, hey, Bud, I thought you said this job was easy or hard, man. This ain't hard. What are you talking about? Just let them all swing away.
Two and 2 on Despaigne. Two hops to LeMahieu. (14-2) as we go to the bottom of the 6th.
Nick Hundley, of course, is going against his old team, San Diego. So I asked him today if it was strange. He said, no, not really. He wore number 4 when he got called up to the big leagues. And I said, is that the reason why you have number 4? And you see the numbers on Hundley with his career. And he said, that's the only reason why. When you look at active players, only 2 players have worn the number 4 longer than Nick Hundley. And those 2 players are Brandon Phillips, the Reds' second baseman, and Yadier Molina, the catcher for St. Louis. Of course, both pretty good players. And then, of course, we said the number 4 that everybody remembers is Lou Gehrig. So that's the reason why he has his number 4. It's just what he got, guys, when he came up to the big leagues. And that is the usual story that you hear from players.
And he's held on to it. It's pretty neat that he's been able to get it wherever he's been. Cargo will lead it off in the 6th inning. He's 0 for 2. Cargo staves off that. Another change. The Padres have taken Matt Kemp off the field. Corey Spangenberg, who's a third baseman by trade, is out in right field. They borrowed Matt's glove, too. Who knows? Rockies got their 2 runs in the 4th inning. A Tulowitzki single. Moved up on a ground out by Cargo. Morneau brought him home with a base hit. And then Rafael Noah would bring home Morneau eventually. Here's the 3-1 from Despaigne. Spangenberg's played a little left field this year. It's the first time in his young career he's been in right field.
I thought last year he played a little bit of left field when he got called up by that ball club. I know one thing, he plays hitter really well.
Changeup. And Despaigne comes all the way back and has his 5th strikeout.
Change speeds, keep the ball away, just try to roll things over a little bit. You can see the grip on the baseball with that middle index finger well above and off the baseball, but you create a big move to the right. You just don't anticipate that pitch. He's got a lot of confidence in his secondary stuff throughout this game and years past. I mean, that's where a lot of people had strong interest in him when he signed his big league deal.
Morneau bounces it to the middle of the diamond. Barmes has been busy tonight. 2 outs. DJ LeMahieu will be next. The day after every Rockies victory, get 50% off your online order at Papa John's. The promo code's RocksWin at papajohns.com. Looks like next in line on the hill for the Rockies will be Rafael Betancourt. These are tough enough to deal with, George. You're absolutely right. They're even more difficult to swallow at home because you have to pick up that extra inning.
Well, it's just taxing on your bullpen to do that. You know, on the reverse side of that, a lot of guys are going to have to pitch in this ball game tonight, whereas their bullpen's got a pretty good night's rest. You know, Despaigne working here into the 6th inning. He's got 93 pitches, probably his last. Just try to maneuver your way through it the best you can. New Britain was rained out tonight. A lot of those storms across the East Coast. Havoc with the minor league season so far. Albuquerque is losing to Reno 5-1. John Gray started that ball game. Reno with 7 hits so far in the ball game. Ransom has hit a home run. 3 1/3, 7 hits, 5 runs, 5 earned, a walk and 4 strikeouts for John Gray, a home run given up. Brandon Barnes off to a hot start. He's hit 286. Tell you who's throwing it back well. Ben Paulson and Tim Wheeler. Wheeler 419 on the season so far.
He swung it well. Trevor Story in New Britain. 2-2.
Get to do it again.
Modesto had a rough year last year. New bodies in there. A lot of prospects. I think Modesto is going to be vastly improved in the California League for the Rockies.
Well, they should be. And because Asheville had one of the best minor league records in all of baseball, majority of those guys made that move. Up.
Right center field, and it's Will Myers cutting over in front of Spangenberg saying, hey, all you got, buddy, you take it. 1-2-3, 6th inning for Despaigne. Colorado's #1 volume Lexus dealer. It was an ugly first inning and wasn't much better, quite frankly, in the second for Jorge De La Rosa in his maiden voyage in 2015. A lot of balls squared up by the Padres. They had 6 hits, 5 runs in the first inning, 3 doubles in that first inning. And the onslaught really has continued throughout the evening as the Padres have built a 14-2 lead. First matchup this year between Colorado and San Diego. We move on to the 7th inning, and the Rockies have made a couple more changes. Daniel Descalso's come in at shortstop for Troy Tulowitzki, and Willeen Rosario will take over at first for Justin Morneau. Rafael Betancourt will handle the 7th inning. Top of the order again for the Padres. 5th at bat for Will Myers. He's 2 for 4. He's also reached on an error. He has scored 3 runs. He's driven 1 in. This ball's in the air to center. Going back is Stubbs. And Drew makes the catch. 1 out.
It's been a special time. It really has, to watch the emergence of Rafael Betancourt coming back from Tommy John. You say, well, what's the big deal? Well, 40 years old. A lot of guys don't do that at age 40, come back and be this effective. 8 strikeouts so far. Over 6 ball games for him, a 150 earned run average. Pretty special. Left-handers have hit 100. Right-handers have hit just 111.
Derek Norris is 3 for 4. He scored 3 times also and driven in a run. Takes ball 1. The Oakland catcher last year hit 10 home runs. Drove in more than 50. Yasmani Grandal, who hit 15 home runs, led the Padres in that department a year ago. The Rockies just saw Grandal. He's become the everyday catcher for the Dodgers.
So many strange things about those trades in the offseason.
This ball's a long way to left center field. It's the deepest part of the park, though. And
heavy
guess
air.
what? Charlie's going to get back and make the catch.
Yeah, a lot of heavy air, too.
So just a long out. 2 gone. That'll bring up Corey Spangenberg for the first time.
This kid's been a very impressive swinger of the bat. I've watched him the last couple of years when he came out and got a chance to come to the big league. Saw him in some AA, AAA ball games as he traveled through Tulsa and Oklahoma City. And he can flat swing it.
Yeah, you saw him in the Texas League last year. He hit .331 in 66 ball games. Came up for 20 games and hit .290.
Kind of a little bit of a Corey Dickerson, a guy that just swings really hard in his at-bats.
We saw one of those guys over the weekend in Jock Peterson. He takes a big hack. He ran into one yesterday, hit a home run. Two-strike count. The perspective of Charlie Blackmon. Outside. Changeup in the dirt. Strike 3 on Spangenberg. 1-2-3 inning for Rafael Betancourt. 14-2 the score. The arms that have had to participate for the Rockies. 14-2 San Diego. Here's a tweet from the Rockies earlier today. Today is, I didn't realize this, National Look-alike Day. So please enjoy this photo of Michael McHenry and Wes Welker. That was taken last year. A bunch of Broncos came down to Coors Field in the summer. They do look quite a bit alike. I just am wondering if there's anybody out there that looks like my partner.
No, there's not.
Thankfully not.
No.
Nick Hundley against Espana. He's still out there.
Surprising. 99th pitch just thrown at 87 miles an hour. Solarte's at third base now.
Yangervis Solarte at third for Will Middlebrooks. Hundley has been on twice, a single and a walk. The Rockies been outscored 21-2 over the last 24 plus hours. Shut out yesterday for the first time this season in LA, 7-0. Can you explain something to me? I know you're going to try.
Me?
Yeah, you need to explain something to me.
Yes, sir.
Brandon McCarthy, who's had a solid big league career, but probably falls under the classification of journeyman starter, back end rotation guy. Been with a number of teams, the White Sox, Oakland, saw him in Arizona. You know, solid back end of the rotation guy. Goes to the Yankees, pitched pretty well second half last year.
Right.
Is he at the fountain of youth? Because he's picked up about 4 or 5 miles an hour on his fastball. Never struck many guys out. Now he's striking everybody out.
Well, I think a little bit of it is too. You know, when he got hit, and he was out for a while. He got hit in the face. Then he was out for a while, but he came back off. That was like a year and a half ago. I don't have an explanation for you. Maybe he went back to a long toss program and started doing some things about arm strength. I mean, he did throw hard as a young kid, but the last couple of years he's been 91, 92 max.
He was sitting on 95 yesterday,
That's
working
big
at
time.
95.
Yeah, big time. I know there's a lot of fans want to gripe about the strikeout, and I hope you get a lot of them. And I agree with that at the back end of a bullpen when you need those punch outs. But for guys to work deep into ball games, as you're looking at Espana, he's into the 7th inning right now. He's thrown 103 pitches, 63 strikes, nothing overpowering. He's just pitched and kept the ball on the ground. He hasn't struck out a lot of people.
(3-0) on Inoa. RBI single for Rafael in the 4th, his first hit of the year. Adam Ottavino, the Rockies closer, is going to work the 8th inning. And at home, if you're still hanging in there, we appreciate it if you are. You may be wondering, would Walt throw a position player? He is absolutely dead set against that.
These guys get hurt. Try to do something different with the ball to make a creation of a deal. There's been so many guys that you look at that they go out and throw that inning thing. It's all fun to do it. But, you know, guy tries to spin a breaking ball that he hadn't spun. You know, try to do something a little bit different.
As
you guys get hurt.
Seiko.
Yeah, you just get hurt. There's no reason to do it.
Barmas charges.
You know, that's interesting little note Doug gave me. I mean, Espana has made 18 starts now. He's gone 7 or more innings 8 times.
You know who he's a little like? In terms of he's not in the rotation, but he has a lot of value, and when they call on him, he always puts up big numbers. Yusmeiro Petit, who has a major league record. He went 46 innings, without allowing a hit.
Yeah, he was special. I mean, you know, they look back at Bumgarner, MVP, the whole deal at the World Series, but without Petit, they probably don't get there in September.
Strike one on Descalso. First at bat for Daniel, and he swings and lines one to right. Bud looks like he's going to take the baseball from Despaigne with 2 outs. Frank Garces will be next. 14-2 Padres. Well, you can pick any number of bats for the Padres, but let's not forget the work of Odrisamer Despaigne. He goes 6 2/3. He's allowed at this point 2 runs on 6 hits. It was very good change in speed. Doesn't hurt to be staked to a 9-0 lead either. Frank Garces comes on to face Charlie Blackmon.
Now before they only had a couple of lefties down there, and then they got Rarick, a kid that came out of nowhere in spring training, threw the ball really well, didn't make the club, and then his contract was bought and brought back to the big leagues. Fifth game for him to appear in.
Yeah, I can't recall, George, maybe you can, the last time the Padres had 2 lefties.
Well, no, they don't. They've just had heavy power ball pitchers. In other words, they threw an awful lot of sinkers to get the ball on the ground, go all the way back to Chad Quall's days, who's still pitching for Houston. But they just used a lot of guys to keep the ball on the ground. They didn't worry about anything else.
That's going to drift out of play. Rockies have won 5 straight against the Padres here at Coors Field. That is in serious jeopardy. There's something interesting also about the Rockies season series a year ago with the Padres. Rockies dominated here. The Padres won 7 out of 10 at Petco. The Rockies actually had a slightly better ERA at home against San Diego than they did at Petco, where everybody, it seems, has a 2-something ERA. Three and 1 on Blackmon. To Jed Jerko. So we move on to the 8th inning, 14-2 San Diego. $14 runs, 16 hits for the Padres tonight. The Rockies 2-6-1. Time for our CenturyLink link to what's next. Here's the upcoming schedule. The Rockies' first protracted homestand of the year. They played just 3 at home till tonight against the Cubs, losing 2 of 3. Giants will be in over the weekend. Then the Rockies will go to Arizona and San Diego, and then the Diamondbacks come here. The Dodgers come here. Heavy traffic with the NL West for the Rockies in the first month or so of the season.
Well, there hasn't been much traffic with this guy. 6 in the third innings, 12 punch outs, only 1 walk. And this is where, boy, when you're the closer and you're always pitching on the plus side, this one is difficult mentally for you. You really got to get yourself pumped up coming into the ball game. Pitch like it's a 1-run game and it's the 8th inning and they're just not going to score. Boone Logan started to throw in the Rockies bullpen. That's to pitch the 9th. Really, the only guy remaining right now is Bergman down there and loaded. If Bergman pitched 2 1/3 yesterday, he wouldn't be available.
Venable on 2 pitches, a little comebacker. You've said this many times through the years, George. The last thing you want to pick up on your thought about your closer is, for him to go out and throw 25, 27 pitches. Then you're in a tight ball game tomorrow where you need him on the plus side and he's not available.
Right, and again, the game's changed so much. I mean, starters and closers, and then the middle guys throwing a lot of innings, and closers throwing a lot of innings. And you're right, they're very protective of that 20-25 pitch mark. Now, there's a lot of guys that can go back-to-back days. Don't get me wrong, but they just kind of like that 20-25 pitch mark, and once they get above 25, they typically are going to give them a day off the next day, so it makes it hard. So you'd like a short, quick inning here.
Yeah, Jan Hervés Solarte's first at bat. He came in for Middlebrooks. 1 ball, 1 strike. Middlebrooks was 1 for 4, a 2-run triple in the 2nd inning. Look out.
Well, the first 20,000 fans to the gates on Friday, you're going to receive a Colorado Rockies tote bag courtesy of MLB Network. Get your tickets for this game versus the Giants. You can call in right now. 303 Rockies, or go to Rockies.com/promotion. Ottavino has struck out more than half of the batters he's faced so far. Lazy fly ball hit to left. Charlie will get under it. 23 batters, 12 strikeouts. 2 quick outs here in the 8th.
Well, what Ottavino brings to the table, the Rockies haven't had in the 9th inning in a while, and that's a guy that does punch guys out, that gets a lot of swings and misses, can dominate hitters. And it's not a knock on LaTroy Hawkins, who did a solid job last year, but LaTroy at this stage of his career is more of a contact type closer. And this guy's stuff is dirty.
Well, yes, it's the same question. It's a good question you might ask him tomorrow. Where'd you pick up the other 4 or 5 miles an hour? Because in the middle of the summer, he was 92, 93, 94 miles an hour. And at the end of the year last year in September, for whatever reason, it jumped to 98, some days 99.
And this year, I mean, that last fastball's at 96. It's been the same stuff. It's been 96, 97.
And that's the way he was early in his career.
Yeah, so it didn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it didn't come out of nowhere. I mean, he was that way early in his career.
And that was 97, George, just to let you know that he heard you again.
He heard me again. You're paying attention.
Well, listen, he's not pitching like he doesn't have adrenaline. I mean, he's dominated the first 2, and he's way ahead of Jerko.
Jerko's like, why me? Why did I get the right-hander?
Jam shot to second, and Ottavino works a very quick 8th inning. Love those hats. Need 'em. Go to the bottom of the 8th inning. Who wants tacos? Fans follow at Root Sports _RM on Twitter to receive alerts for the Rockies taco special when the Rockies score 7 or more. Drew Stubbs will lead it off. Frank Garces got the final out of the 7th inning. Willeen Rosario will follow. Two and nothing. Jerko's got it, 1 out.
MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, is celebrating 13 years now. Watch every out-of-market game live or on demand in true HD, real-time highlights, lives, look-ins, and more. Blackout and other restrictions do apply. Visit MLB.TV for details.
One ball, one strike on Willeen. This is 2-1. Shot, right center field. That'll kiss off the wall. Willeen into second with a double. He's adapted to that new role. We were talking about it, George. He's not getting obviously the number of at-bats that he's had in the past, but he's put together, every time he's come up, he's put together a good AB.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he goes back there, works very hard in the cages. He's working hard on blocking balls, ground balls at first, still working a little bit in right field. But his bat is why he's still here in a Rocky uniform for late power in the game. In the latter part of the ball game, to try to win it, comes up with a double here.
Carr goes 0 for 3. Willeen a slugging percentage of .846 in his 13 at bats. Boone Logan will handle the 9th. The Rockies with Bergman down. Logan's the last man in that pen. Two and one. Cargo trying to get out of what's been a little funk over the last week or so. Great start in Milwaukee. 2-2. Fargo 1 for his last 13.
You got the little camera, big camera, and then you got the still camera. Kind of got everything working right now.
It's our man Jamie. Great photog. 2 outs. And Mike McHenry will pinch hit.
Pretty much last standing, and I mean, allows Walt to do this. Rosario's over there, so he'll probably go in and catch now, and then give Hundley the rest of the night off, maybe, possibly start switching things around a little bit.
And again, everybody's played but Bergman and Arenado. Arenado was scheduled to start, late scratch, tweaked his wrist during batting practice. We'll have to. That'll be one of the first things asked tomorrow afternoon when the lineup comes out. And will Dickerson be in there? Because Dickerson had to leave with some sort of leg ailment.
Yeah, more than likely that'll be asked in post game. Hopefully they'll have an answer for you somewhere. If they have one.
And that kicks off the glove of Norris. Rosario to third. Three-1 on McHenry with 2 outs, and that bounces up there. So LeMahieu will come up. Just now, looks like somebody's starting to get up for the Padres.
Yeah, it's the other left-hander, Rarick, the young lefty that made a team. Should have made it out of spring training. Was sent down late, very late, and then recalled pretty quick when he went back up. So it was all good. He's back up again through him. Got a big slider, decent fastball.
Myers makes the catch, and that's all for the Rockies in the 8th inning. 2 left on. Rosario doubled, and the walk to McHenry. 14-2 Padres. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. And by Mike Shaw Subaru, always our lowest price in sales and service guaranteed. It's been a long night for the Rockies. They're down 14-2 as we go to center field. Check in with Jenny Cavnar. Jenny?
Hey, Drew, you're going to want to stick around in the Toyota postgame show because we're going to go into the clubhouse and get injury updates on Nolan Arenado and Corey Dickerson. Plus, we'll let you know what went wrong in Jorge De La Rosa's return to the mound for 2015. We're also going to discuss what this means for the Colorado Rockies bullpen as they had to go deep into the pen tonight. For now, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Jenny, thank you. Boone Logan, as we told you, will pitch the 9th inning. Yonder Alonso is going to be the first man out, bottom third of the order for the Padres. Crowd of 22,586 tonight. Checking scores out of town. A semi-quiet night in Major League Baseball. Top of the 4th inning, Oakland at 6-7, taking on the 5-7 Angels, and it's 5-3 Oakland in that ball game. Top of the 5th in the Pacific Northwest, Houston leading Seattle 3-2. A couple AL West ball games. Boston earlier beat Baltimore 7-1. Masterson got the win in that one. The Cubs beat the Pirates 5-2 at PNC. Arrieta got the victory there. Marte hit a home run, his 4th in the loss for the Pirates. Detroit improved to 12-2. They beat the Yankees 2-1. That was Simon over Sabathia. Simon's 3-0. Sabathia's 0-3. Teixeira hit his 4th home run for the Yankees in the loss. Two-strike count on Yonder Alonso. Reds beat the Brewers 6-1. The Brewers have just 2 victories so far this year.
Yeah, that's a tough year for the Brewers. Brew Crew right now, it's just not very good at all.
Joey Votto hit his 5th. Cozart hit his 2nd. This is going to find an opening on the right side of the diamond. So a leadoff single for Alonso, and Clint Barmas will come up. And word out of Milwaukee, Jonathan Lucroy broke his toe.
Oh, wow. They're not getting any happier, is it?
No, Braun hit a home run, a solo shot, his 1st of the year, to account for the only run for Milwaukee. White Sox over Cleveland on the south side tonight, 4-3.
And that's, you know, you ask yourself right now in baseball, what's one of the big surprises? For me, it's the White Sox just aren't playing great baseball. Everybody, you know, I mean, they loaded up as much as this Padre ball club did in the American League. They went to Detroit and they got spanks 3 straight. They're winning tonight 4-3 in the 9th, but it's surprising that they haven't been able to play any better than they have.
Listen, there are always surprises, positive ones, negative ones in the early going, and you can't paint with a broad brush early. But you know, I was thinking about the Cubs. They went out, signed John Lester, and in his first 3 ball games, he has an ERA close to 7.
Yeah, nobody anticipated that, but you know, they've gotten the excitement back again. Chris Bryant has been called up. Addison Russell will be there shortly. Baez will be back shortly. The one thing that they don't have a lot of at the minor league level is pitching, and they'll get that. Got some young, strong arms, but they're just more in the high AA level right now.
Barmas 2 for 4, double and a single. Outside, 1-2 on Clint. Kansas City, the reigning American League champs, continue to play well. They're 9-3. They beat Minnesota tonight 7-1. Volquez is 2-1 with a sub-2 ERA in the early going. Two. Will Nieves, briefly a Rocky.
Yeah, they had to fight for a job here with this ball club. That was one area they thought A.J. Prowler was trying to still improve upon up till the very last day. Soft fly ball into center. Stubbs will make a catch. Nieves has parts of 9 years at the big league level, mostly as a backup.
And by the way, Hundley did stay behind the plate. McHenry
Yes, he
did not go back there.
And you're allowed to do that. 3 catchers now, which allows Walt to do that, is the fact that he's still got Rosario at first base. Something were to happen to Hundley, don't let that happen. You just need to catch 2 outs.
That's why you didn't switch, make that switch. Even if you wanted to give Hundley a break, you really couldn't. No swing, 1-1. Here's the 1-2, and he went. Will's hanging around saying, I didn't swing.
Yeah, did he get? Yeah. That's pretty. Huh. Well, if he'd hit like the old saying, if he hit it, it'd gone all the way to right field.
Will Myers, for the 6th time in a regulation game, comes to the plate. A couple hits, 3 runs scored, an RBI. One and two. Temperatures dropped 10 degrees since we began. It's 52 at first pitch. It's down to 42. And Myers tied up by Logan. So Boone gets a couple of strikeouts in the 9th inning. We'll go to the bottom of the 9th. San Diego up by a dozen. produced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Colorado Rockies. Well, she's still dancing in the streets, or in the seats, in the aisles. You know what I'm talking about. Well, it's not turning out as everybody wanted, but they're still having a good time. 14-2, San Diego. Chris Rierick will throw the 9th inning for the Padres. Nick Hundley will be first up for the Rockies. Rierick out of that baseball mecca, the University of North Georgia. Tell me what conference North Georgia's in, Frazier, and I'll buy you lunch tomorrow.
It's in the Georgia Northern Conference.
That's not a bad guess.
Couldn't tell you.
They're in the Peach Belt Conference.
Well, there you go.
And the reason I know that is Chris was the Peach Belt Conference Pitcher of the Year one season.
There you go.
You're the Peach Belt Conference Pitcher of the Year, you end up in the big leagues, right?
Well, I tell you, when you're left-handed, and the guys come from everywhere, but he came out of nowhere to make this ball club. Pitches very well, got decent fastball. Doesn't hurt that you're left-handed. You got roughed up in a couple of ball games. You got a 1350 earned run average, but he's only pitched 2/3. His 2 outs came with strikes.
So Will Nieves at first, and Huntley with another hit. He's been on 3 times tonight, a couple of singles against his former club. I'll bring up Rafael Ynoa. Ynoa has driven in one of the Rockies 2 runs tonight. Both runs scored in the 4th inning for Colorado. It's up the middle, and Jerko tags the bag, turns a double play. Second at bat for Descalso came in at shortstop in the 7th inning. Dougie just handed me a note. Chris Rierick is the first player ever out of the University of North Georgia to make the big leagues. He was a 41st round selection of Tampa Bay.
Well, I hate to say this, but that's a good job on a scout twice. Once coming out of college that they found him. Second, to ask for him in the trade to come over to San Diego. See, I mean, there's a couple of times that San Diego was able, obviously, their scouts saw him somewhere.
He was Tampa's minor league reliever of the year in 2011. Hey, you get to the 41st round, you got to convince somebody too.
Well, you know, it's senior sign. They overlook you. You sign as a 22-year-old. That's the other side of it, which he probably did.
Well, good for Chris Rierick.
Absolutely. Got a pretty good arm. I mean, sneaky fast. That blasted 8 is only 89 miles an hour. Say only. That's probably hard enough when you got location to go along with it. That's why he made the ball club. He's got a really good breaking ball. I watched that the other day when he's pitching against the Cubs.
3-2. Tomorrow, the Rockies will send Tyler Matzik to the mound, trying to snap what will be a 4-game losing streak, and Brandon Morrow will go for the Padres. Descalso to first, and Blackman will come up. Charlie's 0 for 3 and a walk. Biggest question marks, and they'll try to get some answers for you in the post-game show. As Jenny told everybody, the status going forward of Nolan Arenado, who was a late scratch with a wrist ailment suffered at batting practice. Corey Dickerson had to come out. He kind of hobbled to first in his second at bat on a ground out. Neither one looked really serious.
No, they didn't. I mean, and after all, Arenado stayed in the box, took one more swing, then he got out. I'm sure he went and got it iced and checked immediately. Corey Dickerson started to take off and just kind of stopped. You know, started to limp a little bit. Is that a cramp? Is it, you know, maybe a slight pull, something? You don't know. And I mean, I'm not even going to guess at it. You just hope it goes pretty quick, that they have a chance to get their handle on it, which they will.
This is a towering fly ball to deep right center field. Blackman off the top of the fence. That hit the padding. Descalso scores. Charlie in the third with a triple. Came within a couple of feet of hitting that out.
5th RBI for Charlie. And again, that's, you know what, it shows a lot to your manager when you do continue to swing the bats. They had a pretty good easy chance to 2 outs after the double play. Descalso walks and Charlie comes up, gets a fastball on the inner half of the plate, drives it deep right center field. Chase given here. The play not made. Right on that rubber padding as he gave chase to this baseball. Corey Spangenberg normally a little different infielder. Charlie off to the races, gets into third base ahead of the throw, but Spangenberg, I think he looked like, he felt like he was going to hit the fence because he just totally turned his head away from the baseball. That last foot and a half, and I don't think he knew exactly where he was. In defense of him, he just hadn't played the outfield much. And the other side of this is you get 2 looks at a left-hander here. And Bud Black's wanting to see this in a no-pressure situation. He gets out of here. Here's a look on the Subaru Supermo. Look right here. See how he looks down? As he starts to hit that wall, loses sight and the fly to the baseball.
2-1 on Drew Stubbs.
Like I said, in defense of him, he hadn't been out there.
Ground ball to third, and that'll end the ball game. Tough night for the Rockies. It started tough and it didn't get much better. Jorge De La Rosa made his 2015 debut. He gave up 5 in the first, 4 in the second, and the Padres cruised to a 14-3 victory. Banya gets the victory. He is 2-0. De La Rosa takes the loss. He is 0-1. 17 hits tonight for the San Diego Padres. Our Jimmy John's delivery of the game. Well, you might as well tip your cap to the entire Padres offense. They put on a hitting display. Kemp was outstanding. A whole lot of Padres. They have a new look offense, and they were outstanding tonight. Again, 14 runs on 17 hits. Padres win at 14-3 this evening. When we come back, Jenny will have the Toyota postgame show. I invite you to stick around for that.